This is Skyview 5 towers built to be Castle Hill's vertical village in the sky. 900 apartments, 900 million Australian dollars. Sold before a single brick went up. The basement cracked. The doors got sealed. Nobody got their keys. Who signed off on a basement built to hold up 900 apartments? Who saw the cracks first and when? Why did a bank hand over $150 million based on paperwork nobody double-checked? And when the tower stopped being safe, who decided the families waiting for their keys should find out last? To understand how something this size could fall apart, it helps to see how big and how trusted the man behind it had become.
We knew it was bad, but it's far worse than anyone expected. Wanted developer John Nassif is the man behind what could be Australia's biggest property collapse.
Sydney was desperate for housing. Prices were climbing every year. Migration into the city was strong, and high-rise apartment towers were the answer almost every developer reached for. Buyers could put down a deposit on an apartment that existed only as a drawing and a scale model sitting on a table in a sales office years before a single wall went up, betting their life savings on a home they had never actually seen finished. It was a system that ran almost entirely on trust that the developer would build what was promised and trust that the government would catch it if something went wrong. Sydney property developer Jean Nassif rode that trust further than almost anyone. Over 3 decades, he built his company Toplace into one of the city's largest private apartment developers, reportedly putting up tens of thousands of homes across Castle Hill, Kellyville and Parramatta. To a lot of people, he looked like proof that the system worked, a self-made developer building homes for thousands of families spending money like the boom would never end. His wife once drove a brand new Lamborghini off a driveway on camera, a gift caught on film and shared across the country, exactly the kind of public, unmistakable evidence of success that made buyers feel safe handing over their life savings. Skyview was supposed to be Nassif's biggest win, yet 5 towers named Lyra, Carina, Hydra Phoenix and Vela rising together over one shared underground basement in the heart of Castle Hill. That was the plan. Here's what actually happened. Sydney had already been warned once, and it had nothing to do with Nassif. On Christmas Eve, 2018, residents of the Opal Tower were evacuated in the middle of the holidays after loud cracking echoed through a brand new, fully occupied building.
Bit unnerved when you got here and saw it was the Opal Tower?
Very much. Yeah, we were, when I told my wife, she wanted me to move out actually and find somewhere else to stay. I would not feel comfortable no matter what they told me. I wouldn't want to move back in.
6 months later, Mascot Towers emptied out the same way, and owners were left with repair bills big enough to help bankrupt some of them. The state government responded by creating a building commissioner, a brand new watchdog role with real authority to block a building from opening if he wasn't satisfied it was actually safe.
There's no concrete answer as to how much that's going to cost you. Blood cancer, and I blame completely the stress of Mascot Towers.
Ruined our health. It's ruined our retirement to get another mortgage, so we're virtually homeless.
Then in early 2021, the same fault line cracked concrete under a high-rise turned up again, this time underneath a Skyview tower that hadn't opened its doors yet. Construction industry insiders passed photos of Skyview's basement to journalists and to members of the New South Wales Parliament. These weren't hairline cracks anyone could shrug off. They ran the full length of a concrete slab that was supposed to carry the weight of 5 towers wide enough in places to fit a closed fist. The original certifier on the project the private inspector hired to confirm a building is actually safe to occupy had already been deregistered. A New South Wales fair trading inspector from the state's building regulator went in and confirmed what the photos showed: extensive cracking. The building commissioner then issued a prohibition order blocking the occupation certificate the official sign-off required before anyone can legally move in for 2 of the towers that were already finished. For the families waiting on those 2 towers, this wasn't an abstract delay. They had already sold their old homes, packed moving boxes, and enrolled their kids in nearby schools. Some had picked out finishes and furniture, already imagining where things would go. Now they were paying rent or a mortgage on somewhere else to live every single month, while their deposit sat frozen inside an apartment the government wouldn't let them enter. Toplace insisted the issues were minor, and in July 2021 signed a written promise to cover any structural defect at Skyview for 20 years, calling it a new industry benchmark. A written guarantee is only as good as the company standing behind it. And while those 2 towers sat sealed, the other 3 towers at Skyview were still being built, funded by a loan that had its own problems.
Under the new laws, does that mean that everyone's got to leave it? My first thought was, do we have to vacate the building?
3 of Skyview's still unfinished towers were funded by a $150 million construction loan from Westpac, one of Australia's largest banks. Banks only release that kind of money once enough apartments are proven sold on paper, a safety check meant to prove real buyers are behind a project. Prosecutors alleged the pre-sale contracts behind that loan were falsified. And in 2026, Nassif's daughter Ashlyn Nassif, a lawyer who worked on the paperwork, pleaded guilty to submitting false documents to help obtain it. But the falsified paperwork wasn't the only problem inside that deal. Sir, the bank's own relationship manager Graham Smith later admitted in court that he had received $150,000 in undisclosed payments and a family holiday in the United States, funded personally by Jan Nassif, while he was the one managing that loan on the bank's side.
Did your dad tell you to do this? She's accused of falsifying pre-sales contracts.
One tower's cracked basement had already exposed the certifiers. Now the loan behind 3 more towers had exposed the bank. And Skyview wasn't even the only Toplace building with a problem.
Congratulations, Mrs. Nassif. Do you like?
But the quality of supercar was a far cry from the quality of apartments.
Once investigators started pulling the thread, defects turned up across Toplace's other buildings, entirely separate developments built by the same company in different parts of Sydney. A tower called Atmosphere in Castle Hill, 2 more called Riviera and Rise in Parramatta, and 1 called Vicinity in Canterbury, where residents had been fighting the company in court since 2018 and needed emergency supports installed in 2021, just to stop part of it from collapsing. A study by the University of New South Wales City Futures Research Centre later found that at least 1 in 4 Sydney apartment buildings built in that era had some kind of defect, and among the buildings with full records, 1 in 8 had more than 10 different types of defects. This wasn't one bad building, it was a pattern. And back at Skyview itself, the problems weren't finished either. By mid-2023, Toplace was unravelling on every front at once. That June Fire and Rescue New South Wales failed Skyview on a live safety inspection. A dry, inoperable hydrant system across 3 towers, a disabled fire indicator panel. Emergency intercoms that didn't work, fire doors that wouldn't close properly. In a complex meant to house thousands of people, those aren't paperwork failures. They're the difference between everyone getting out of a building and nobody getting out. The bills had already started coming due.
Founder, the elusive John Nassif, is wanted by police over fraud charges, but remains overseas.
The company collapsed, the owners paid. Toplace collapsed in 2023, dragging 65 linked companies into administration. The group's total debts and liabilities were estimated at well over $1 billion, including roughly $200 million owed to secured creditors alone out of more than 500 creditors, in all tradespeople, subcontractors and apartment buyers among them. Here's what that debt actually meant for the people at the bottom of it. When a company collapses, everyone it owes money to lines up to get paid back, and banks and big lenders go first. Apartment owners chasing repair money were classified as unsecured creditors, meaning they went to the very back of that line, often getting nothing at all. One rectification order alone was estimated to cost owners $150,000. It came out of nurses' and teachers' savings accounts, the same people who had done everything right and still ended up paying twice for the same home. Before the final collapse, Nassif and Toplace even won a temporary stay on the suspension of their building license, arguing that suspending it would hurt the very residents everyone was trying to protect. It worked for a few months. By mid-2023, the license was gone for good, and the company that built it all could no longer legally build anything. Across every Toplace development combined, an estimated 20,000 people were caught up in the wreckage. 2 of Skyview's 5 towers are occupied today, but the owners living there do so under the shadow of ongoing defect claims and rising repair bills. The buyers who were blocked at the gate back in 2021 have spent years since fighting just to get answers and their money back. The other 3 towers still sit unfinished, tangled in negotiations to find a builder willing to finish the job to a standard regulators will actually sign off on. There was never a quick, clean ending here, and most of the people still waiting stopped expecting one a long time ago. Jean Nassif didn't stay to watch any of it happen. He had already left for Lebanon in 2022, and an arrest warrant followed him there in 2023. In April 2024, a photo surfaced showing him at a casino smoking a cigar surrounded by security. That same month, apartment owners back in Castle Hill were sitting through another strata meeting that ran for hours working out who would cover the next repair bill. And all of it traces back to one man's decision to leave. One faked contract sank 900 apartments and $200 million in debt. And it's happening again right now. In Miami, the Missoni Bayer Tower is facing a lawsuit alleging 76 construction defects, cracked floor slabs, failed fire alarms, water pouring into finished units filed against developer OKO Group, led by billionaire Vladislav Doronin. Florida only tightened its structural inspection laws after Champlain Towers South, a 12-story condo in Surfside, collapsed in 2021, killing 98 people in a building whose corroded supports had reportedly been flagged years before it fell. Anyone still considering a pre-construction condo from a developer they don't recognise would be wise to ask who certified it and who's paying that certifier's bill before signing anything. You just don't know which tower nearby is quietly repeating Skyview's timeline right now. This was never really about one cracked basement or even one developer. It was a system where the certifiers checking a building were paid by the very developers they were supposed to be checking, and nobody who made that decision is being asked to justify it. Would anyone have signed off on those pre-sale numbers, or would they have walked away the moment the first crack photo landed on a desk? Ashlyn Nassif is due back in court for sentencing in September 2026. Her father is still in Lebanon, still unreachable. The next Skyview is probably already sold off the plan somewhere. You just don't know its name yet. The project you just watched took years to fail publicly. The next one on this channel took longer and cost more. Subscribe, because by the time it makes the news, it's already too late. Comments are open. Name your city.